Hi and welcome back to part 2 of my online class using the Thank You Kindly kit. So in part 1 we made 2 cards using the large flowers. So now for part 2 we're going to be using the other card design with the single leaf piece. All right, so let's get started. So I'm going to be adding colour to this leaf piece using my blending brushes once again. And I'm going to use Garden Green and a little bit of Crumb Cake. So let's do that first. Just bring in my grid paper again just to give me somewhere to tap off my excess ink. Okay, so once again, I don't want a lot of ink on these leaves. I'll just zoom in a little bit if I can so that you can see what I'm doing there. So I'm just going to start at the base of each leaf and work my way up. Just a little bit of ink at a time. Again, I'm happy to leave a fair bit of white. Very gentle touch. And as I move up the leaf, the colour gets lighter. So as you can see, a little bit darker colour down at the base of the leaves there. And then it fades as the ink from the blending brush runs out. It gets lighter as you move up the leaves there. So I have already done one of these, so I'm not going to keep going with that one, but I will show you on this one just how I put a little bit of Crumb Cake on the stems. So only just a very light bit of colour on those stems and going up into the base of those leaves, just blending it into that green. You may not be able to see it. It's a bit hard with those other ink splodges behind it there too, but you can just start to see that colour coming there. I can get that to refocus. Oopsie. A sec. Put the blending brush down. Just get that to refocus, sorry. And you can just start to see a little bit of that Crumb Cake coming through, but I would add more than that, but I will show you the one that I'm just about finished so that it doesn't take too long for you to sit and watch me do that. So you can see more of that crumb cake colour on there now. I do just want to add a tiny bit more green to that one. So I'll do that. Just a tad, not a lot. I just want to bring it, just haven't quite finished it. And I think that's pretty close to as much ink as I want on those. Maybe just a tad more on that one. There we go. Yeah, so I really like how that looks. Look, you get a clearer image of that once I move that paper out of the way. So there it is there. I'll just get some wet wipes. I've got ink on my fingers before I pick up anything else. Let's get that off. Okay, so that's not the only ink we're going to be adding to this card. I'm also going to take this circle piece. Now this is the larger of the two circle pieces that was included in the kit. It came with the large ones and the smaller ones. And in the kit example, they used both the large and the smaller circle on this card, but I'm only going to be using the larger one today. And I want to add some watercolour to this. Now, you'll notice in your kit, you'll notice that, again, this is quite textured and it actually takes water really, really well. So it's really helpful to be able to have some cardstock that takes water well. Now, I did one earlier and I used a brownie coloured ink called Copper Clay, and I thought that turned out really well. And then I took a piece of Copper Clay cardstock and I ran it through an embossing folder with the purpose of getting my card base, laying that cardstock down. We're going to put that watercoloured circle over the top and then add the leaf on top of that. So that looks really good, and I will probably use that one for another card. But for the purpose of this class video, I'm going to do a slightly different colour. I've got a piece of a dark green. This one's actually called Shaded Spruce, and I've run it through that the Soft Waves embossing folder again that we used on one of the other cards. Just want to make sure that's focusing all right. Can you see that? I hope you can see that okay. Yeah, so I've got that green one, and for this card I'm going to watercolour this in the same green that we used on our leaves. So I'm going to get my garden green ink pad, and I've got a water painter here. And again, when you buy these water painters, they come in a pack of, it's either 2 or 3 with different size brush tips in them. I did check up on the blending brushes too, and they do come in a pack of three, both the large and the small, if you were curious about those. All right, so what I've done is I've squeezed my ink pad so that I have, when I open it, I have a pool of ink sitting in my lid there. So I'm going to come in and just add some water to the inside of the lid and pick up some of that green and just wash it over. It doesn't have to be super dark, and I'm not going to colour the whole piece. I'm happy for it to have some white edges on it. So I think that's all I want to do with my green colour. So I'll just blot that off on a paper towel until the water runs clear. But then I actually thought it would be nice to bring in some crumb cake and add that to the green, just for a little bit of earthiness, because we've got that earthiness in the stem of the leaves. Now, I don't want it to be a huge amount. Don't want it to look too brown. And I think that's enough. I think that's all I really want. Just really subtle. Just gives a little bit more earthiness to that green. Now, I could have dried that in between adding colours, but that actually worked quite well, mixing the two together while they were still wet. So I'm just going to get my heat tool and dry that off. So it will be a little bit noisy for a minute. Grab my tweezers again, so I don't burn my fingers. Okay, so the reason I flip that over was just to try and take some of the curl out of that paper. I'm just going to zap that again because where the tweezers were is still a little bit damp. So bear with me for a sec. Okay, and that is beautifully dry. So you can see just that very slight variation in colour there. So it's not just a solid green. So I'm really happy with that. And I think that with the leaf over the top is just a nice subtle effect. So we can stick all this one down. So this one's really quick. And I am still going to once again add some twine as well. Love my gold thread. Okay. And I'm just leaving a little bit of a white border where, just going to slide that a little bit, not quite straight. There we go. So we've got just where the card spine is there, we've got a nice little bit of white border. Give that a good crease, and then we will stick that down. Just work out where. I don't want it right in the middle, probably just down a little bit from the middle, I think. Would be nice. Just some glue on the back of that. And because this is just a little bit misshapen from the water and the heating, I just want to make sure I get a good amount of glue on there. Again, more than I would normally use. And then I'm just going to hold that down for a little bit longer. Okay, so like I said, I'm very happy with that. I've stuck that down. I did have another thought. I like some splattering a little bit on the die cut, some ink splattering and coming off onto some of the white pieces as well. So I'm getting my water painter again, but this time I'm getting a darker ink, the shaded spruce, which is actually the same colour as this cardstock here, and I want it to be fairly dark, so I don't want this too watered down. And I'm just going to get the lid and do that. I'll zoom in case you can't see that there. Let's move that over so you get a better look at that. A bit more. You don't want to go overboard. And I think that's getting pretty close to being enough. Okay, and I'll just give that a hit with the heat gun as well to make sure that's nice and dry before I add the leaf on top. Close that ink pad up before we make a mess. More of a mess, I should say. And I also need to wipe up my glass mat there. So I'll just get my my chamois and just make sure I've got all of those chamois a little bit damp. Make sure I've got all that ink up and it's not going to ruin my card. There we go. Excellent. All right, so I just get my heat tool, so it'll just be a bit noisy again for a minute. Okay, it's just about right, I think. There we go. All done. Oh, sorry, I keep dropping things. That's what the loud bangs are. Rightio. So there we go. I think that and that on top just adds a little bit more texture to that card with those ink splatters. So now I did want to try and put some gold twine under that as well. But I think I might, it's going to be a little bit hard to work out where to stick it down because there's so much open space under these leaves. So I'm going to put the leaves down on dimensionals first and just leave some space for me to be able to slip the twine under. Okay. So this one would make a really good masculine card too. Masculine or feminine, but if you need a masculine card, okay, happy with that there. Now, what I'm going to do, I don't think I want, I'm just going to get my bone folder and run that along the twine to try and take some of that curl out of it to make it a bit easier to use. That's better. This makes it a bit easier to work with if it's not springing back on you all the time. Not quite as much anyway. So I kind of want it to be in a bit of a circle, but not quite that big. So thinking about there, I'm just going to get a glue dot. And I'm going to stick that to one glue dot and then pick up the other glue dot with a pokey tool and put it on top. So it's like double-sided. It's holding all the twine together as well as giving me the adhesive I need. So I'm going to try and no, that's not going to work. Okay, hang on. What I should have done was not take the backing off this dimensional before I stuck that down. However, all is not lost because I can gently prise that one up. Easily enough. Get that under there. And then gently need a pair of tweezers for this. I need an extra pair of hands is what I need. Tweezers will do. Just lift that up slightly. Move that under there so that the glue dot is hidden under that branch. And then I'll just add a little bit of liquid glue onto the back of that dimensional in case it's lost a bit of its sticky, like so. And Bob's your uncle. So yes, in hindsight, if I had have not taken the glue off the back of that dimensional, the backing off that one, then I could have slid that under and then peeled the backing off. So that's what I should have done. But that looks quite cute. I'll just trim that off a little bit. Yeah, and again, I think that would also make a nice sympathy card, and I need a couple of them. So I will leave the greeting off that one as well. So I hope you like that one. It's really subtle but effective. Lots of greens if you like greens, but you could make that, obviously, that colouring whatever you want it to be. You could have, you know, different coloured greens. You could have different coloured leaves. You could have brown leaves if you wanted to, or make it an autumn card and have them sort of reds and oranges and that kind of thing. All right, so we'll move on to the next one. Just clear some rubbish away, ready for the next one. Okay, so another card with that leaf design, and this time we're going to bring in some designer series paper and some matching cardstock, some more of those beautiful leaves, die cut leaves that I used on the first card. So let's get cracking. We'll get our last card base here. I had so many different ideas that I could have shown you, but for time's sake, I can't do them all. But for this one, this paper is actually, I prefer this side of the paper, but because of what I'm putting on top, that's probably a little bit too busy. So I'm going to use the reverse side of it. But I've cut a piece of cardstock to match this paper. This is Pretty Peacock. And if you want to know the size of that, I've cut it 1/4 of an inch smaller than what this card base is. So these are American sizes. So they are 5.5 by 4 1/4. So I've cut this at 5 1/4 by 4. So I'll stick that down straight away because nothing else needs to happen with that. And I'll zoom back. Am I zoomed out? Oh, yes, I am. Okay. And the other thing in talking about this liquid glue is never take it right to the edges of what you're gluing down, because you run the risk of it oozing out the sides. So it's always good to just, and like I mentioned before, you've got a few seconds where you can just move it around. That's why I love it, because it gives you that time to make sure your edges are even and straight, and you don't get that chance with tape or any of the tape runners. So I'm just going to give that another. There we go. All right, so now let me just see which way I want this to go. It probably doesn't matter, I don't think. Yeah, I think that way. So I will stick that down as well. But isn't that beautiful paper? It's actually from the same suite that those dies that I cut the pretty leaves out of. It's called Thoughtful Journey, and it's a 6x6 paper pack. And I'll just quickly show you all the different. Oh, it took me ages to decide what colours to use on this card because it's just got the most amazing colour variations in. Hang on, I've got some scraps that I've cut that are going to fall out. There we go. But just have a look at. It's got some beautiful scenery patterns. Can you see those? And just the most beautiful colour variation. Sorry, the camera is a little bit close, so it's a bit hard to, but you get the idea. And it gives you a good look at the back of them as well. So the dies and the stamps that match it and the paper is all part of a suite of products, but you can buy any of them separately. I'll just show you. Sorry, Thoughtful Wishes. Yeah. So I showed you the dies earlier. That is the stamp set. So some lovely floral and leaf images and some beautiful sentiments there. And the papers. So if you like that, check that out in my online shop. And let's get back to gluing this. Okay. Last card. This one's pretty quick. All right, which way did I say that way? And I've cut the DSP, which is what Stampin' Up calls their pattern paper, designer series paper they call it, sorry for the shake. I've cut that. I've got less of a border because I only wanted that dark cardstock just peeking through. I wanted this designer series paper to really shine. So this I've cut at just 1/8 of an inch smaller than the cardstock. So if you're writing these measurements down, the paper is 5 1/8 of an inch by 3 7/8. And the only reason I'm doing that in inches is because of the measurements of the card base, as I said, being American sizing, just slightly different to our Australian sizing in centimetres. All right, so now, while I'm going to leave this leaf piece in the white as it is, I've cut another piece of the same coloured cardstock and I've run it through that beautiful embossing folder, and I've cut that at, I'm just reading my notes, okay, I can give you this in both inches and centimetres. So it's either 2 7/8 or 7.3 centimetres by 4 inches or 10.2 centimetres. So I'll just grab my trimmer and make sure that I got that right, but I'm pretty sure that's right. So we've got 7.3 centimetres, yep, by 10.12 centimetres, yep, that's right. Okay. Alrighty, and that is going to go down in the centre there. So I am going to glue that straight down as well. So we're very quickly building the layers on this card. Once again, it's embossed, so I'm going to give it a little bit more glue treatment. And I just want that smack bang in the middle. That looks close enough and straight enough to me. Okay, so I'm just going to open that up and just give it a gentle rub on the inside to make sure that glue's nicely adhering to everything. Right, now, before I put our leaf piece on, instead of twine this time, I have cut some more of those beautiful leaves, delicate leaves, but this time I've cut them in different shades of gold. So this colour here is just cardstock, and it is wild wheat cardstock, but it's a real goldy sort of colour. And these leaves are cut from vellum, but it's gold, hang on, what's it called? Gold Mercury specialty vellum. So I'll show you what that looks like in the full sheets. It comes in 12 by 12, and as you can see, it's gorgeous. It's got a few different patterns, slightly different patterns with the gold, and you can use either side of it. So if you didn't want the gold showing, you can still have a speckledy pattern but just have the plain side showing. So that has been really useful to use for elements on my cards, or strips of it here and there. So I'm not going to use both. I was tossing up which one to use, whether to use the solid cardstock colour or the vellum. And I'm thinking the vellum, but I'll show you the difference between the two. So I probably didn't need to cut this one in half, but it just gives you more options if you do. So that's the solid colour underneath there. And I just thought that was a little bit heavy because there's a lot of that colour in the designer series paper, even though it's watercoloured, it's a bit more washed out. But I just thought these were a lot more delicate and would work better. So yeah, I really like that. So I'm going to go with the vellum. I just need to have a think about whether I want them. Oh, there's a piece that's didn't come out when I die cut it. Whether I go that way. It's probably easier to have a look while I'm holding the leaves. Maybe want the leaf to be slightly angled that way. The vellum is so delicate and beautiful. Just got to be a bit gentle with it. Yeah, I think maybe not too much of an angle, almost upright, because that's going to be at an angle. And I don't really need it quite that long either. Yeah, that's it, that's it. So I am going to stick that together with just going to very carefully pick that up with my tweezers so it stays where I want it to be. And I think probably liquid glue is the best thing to use here. Just move that up there. And then very gently dab some glue under there. Actually, you know what? I don't need to glue them together. All I need to do is glue them down to the cardstock. Oops, that's a little bit much. See, I'm just going to get a little bit of scrap cardstock. And this is what you do if you've put too much glue on. Just grab some scrap cardstock, spread it out, and it's fixed. Okay. So it's a bit hard to see the glue on the white vellum with the pattern on it. And when you've got plain vellum, you'll find that adhesive will actually show through. So it's good, but with the gold pattern on it, it's not going to show at all. Yeah, when you're using the plain vellum, there's just another little loose piece there I need to get out of the way. Come on, off you go. When you're working with the plain vellum, the way around that is just to put the adhesive in a spot where underneath where an element's going to go over the top so that it's not going to show. Okay, so that will stick the vellum to the cardstock, and I don't need any more adhesive than that. I quite like having edges that are not stuck down. It looks a bit more flowy. And then I'm going to pop that up on dimensionals again, and we will be done with our last card. So I really look forward to seeing what you create with this kit, whether you make any like the same as mine, or whether you make completely different ones. I would love to see what you make, and you can post pictures of them in my Facebook group, which is called Stampin' with Linny for Paper Crafters. If you're not already a member, you can join my group. It's a purely social group for paper crafters. So while it is connected to my business page, it's more a group for social sharing, whatever we're making, and just enjoying the hobby that we love with our friends. And that will go down like that. And that one's done. And again, I'm not going to add the greeting to that. I will wait and see if I use that one as a sympathy one as well. But just to show you an example, I'll just get those thank you greetings out again. And because they've got, you know, they've got a couple of different fonts there. They've got the scroll font and the solid font. So you could put the greeting across there. You could put it down here. You could even put it up there. Or the scroll one would look lovely too. Yeah. So that is it. I'll bring all 4 cards in so that if you want to take a screenshot, you can. I don't think I can zoom out anymore, unfortunately. Hang on a second. So there's those 2. I'll take a screenshot of those 2 while I get the other ones. Because obviously you can pause the video and then you can take a screenshot of those 2. Oops, found the wrong way, sorry. There we go. So I hope you enjoyed that class. I love coming up with different ideas to use with all the Stampin' Up! Kits. So I hope that's inspired you to have a go at using more kits too. They're a great way for quick and easy cards, especially if you're in a hurry, if you're time poor, you need a card quickly, they're terrific for that. B, if you're a beginner and you don't really know where to start, kits are the best place to start. And even for people like me who love to create their own designs, it gives you like a springboard to look at what Stampin' Up! Has designed and then just tweak it to make it your own. So you still end up with nice, quick and easy cards, but you can make them as complicated or as easy as you want. So thank you so much for taking my class, and don't forget to post your, there you go, I just about got them all in, didn't I? There we go. Don't forget to post pictures of your finished cards in my Stampin' with Linny for Paper Crafters Facebook group. Okay, take care. Let me know if there's anything else I can help you with. Bye for now.